Uh, oh my god. It has to be gone, right? Oh, hello again, and welcome back to the Lore Cave. I'm the Lore Keeper, and I've been misinformed by my previous Lore Keeper. While looking for the next story of the Loverboy XXX saga, I had to dig pretty deep into the catacombs of the Lore Cave. And to my surprise, without any warning, the Lore Cave leads directly into a red dragon's den. I'll be honest with you, if I wasn't chained to this position for eternity, I probably would have ran away without looking back. But I have a job, and I'll do my damn best to make sure you guys get the fullest extent of the Lore Cave. That being said, hopefully taken from this dragon's horde doesn't end up killing me. And with that, I think we should begin our story. This story has to do with the same setting from my last story. However, this time the new guy gets a bit too creative in character creation. Okay, I'll try to keep this shorter than usual, so my friends DM in a custom setting that we designed together. You can read my previous story for a more detailed description if interested, but I will quickly summarize the relevant plot parts here. Basically, it's a dark fantasy world where the players control a squad of artificially created, half-monster hybrids, specifically designed by humans for combating other monsters. So, for example, the most commonly utilized hybrids are creatures known as Defang, which are essentially artificially created vampires that exclusively crave the blood of other vampiric entities. Once, if ever, their purpose is fulfilled, they'll wither away and die out as well. Pretty much every hybrid has some sort of failsafe in their design that ensures their compliance. Think DC Suicide Squad and add a grimdark aesthetic to it. My friend is still going to be referred to by his full round username, LoverboyXXX, which I refuse to abbreviate, because forcing people to read the whole thing out loud is hilarious to me. I'm a fully functioning adult, I swear. Recently, LoverboyXXX wanted to expand and diversify his player roster, since most of his current players, with the exception of one, are playing defanged characters. That's not necessarily a bad thing since they all play them well, but it's a shame considering the amount of effort put into the world. Personally, I think he just feels guilty that he made me come up with all these races and factions that nobody ended up playing. But you know, that's just a hunch. So he decided to put up an ad on Discord, stating what he was looking for. For context, it's a large server that hosts a variety of TTRPG games with their own dedicated channels. His only requirement for potential players was for them to familiarize themselves with the basics of the lore and to choose a species that isn't a defang. Straightforward enough, right? At least most of the other candidates thought so. That is, with the exception of one, who we will call Succula. Succula was one of the last people to respond to the ad, by which point LoverboyXXX had already filled the desired slot in his party. However, Succula was particularly enthusiastic, emphasizing that they were a fan of classic horror, and that they had been looking for a setting like this one for a while. Being the stern yet merciful god that he is, LoverboyXXX let him know that he could free up an extra slot, and asked them to submit their character's backstory for review so he could figure out how to integrate them into the current plot. Also, yes, he made it abundantly clear that he was no longer accepting vampire characters. Other than that, all other playable, emphasis on playable, species and classes were fine. 2 days go by since their last interaction and no word from Succula. LoverboyXXX figured that they were either busy or really committed to writing out a detailed backstory. The group were taking a break that weekend, so he had no reason to rush them. On the following Monday, just before heading to bed, he was messaged by Succula, who provided a Google link for their newly created character. Upon said link, our unfortunate protagonist was greeted by walls upon walls of solid text. The glow of the screen illuminated his weary and unreasonably handsome face. His eyes stung from the bright red letters inscribed upon a black background, using a suitably edgy font. Every fiber of his being was telling him to stop, to look away before it was too late, and yet his morbid curiosity got the better of him. And so, against his better judgment, he read on. Now, I don't think that would be right for me to copy-paste the entirety of this person's sheet, so I'll just recount what I think are the most noteworthy parts. For one, I'm not sure if they even read any of the lore. We have a basic list of bullet points that is only like 1,000 characters long. That's only half of Discord's character limit per post. Succula outright stated that they were a full-fledged vampire. Not even the world's version of it. Just a classical, sleeps in a coffin, hangs from the rafters kind of vampire. Red eyes and long cape included. I'm not throwing shade at the stereotypical archetype, just not what we were going for. Second, instead of choosing a class, they went ahead and made one of their own. Well, okay, they technically chose a rogue as their profession, but they also added that they were capable of enhancing their abilities with vampiric magic. To answer your question, no, we didn't have anything called vampiric magic in our setting. Hell, even the quintessential D&D style blood magic wasn't even fully introduced yet. They were able to turn into a bat and a wolf at will, because of course they were. And my personal favorite, they were able to make other characters into their personal thralls. So writing a long lore for your player character is fine, and I think most DMs would appreciate it. However, the problem starts when you as a player are stating overpowered powers that the character already has without consulting the DM. And even if that's fine and your DM lets it fly, why would you want to start with a character that's nigh invincible? Makes no sense to me personally. I think the point of playing in these campaigns and in these TTRPGs is to grow as the campaign goes on, but if that's what gets your rocks off for your power fantasy, write a fanfiction instead. Overpowered? Unreasonable, yes, but not entirely unsalvageable. After all, Loverboy XXX usually tweaks his class system a bit to accommodate players. And while the fact that this person clearly hadn't bothered to read any of the rules was annoying, perhaps a compromise could yet be reached. Perhaps Succula could have played some sort of deluded, theatrical antagonist, thinking himself an incarnate of Dracula himself, the legend whom does canonically exist in the world. Well, all such inclinations were dashed as soon as Loverboy XXX got to the backstory. See, Succula's character wasn't bored, conventionally speaking. Oh no, that'd be too predictable, too tame. Instead, they were actually among the first vampires ever to exist. Formed from the sizzling blood pools of hell itself. You can probably already guess who their father is supposed to be. You've read the title. When Loverboy XXX told me about this, my first thought was this person had to be taking the piss. But then I read it, and well, I can't be 100% certain they weren't trolling. It was written in such a genuine way that I couldn't help but think that they were being for real. They even disputed their decline, saying that it made sense for a character like theirs to exist. Gotta love it when people lecture you and try to educate you on your own setting. But of course, Loverboy XXX was the one being unreasonable for not letting them play the bootleg Castlevania reject. Besides, they were actually doing us a favor by contributing to the established and, in their opinion, mundane lore. Eternal logic be damned, it's all about that power fantasy, baby. Needless to say, they left soon after throwing their little tantrum. It's not really a horror experience as much as I found it ridiculous and wanted to share it. Sure, Succula was sort of being an ass at the end, and their entitlement and expectations were less than reasonable, but they weren't some comedically awful cartoon villain either. TLDR, player submits an Edgy Mary Sue character for approval, and is surprised when it gets rejected. Doesn't even get to session 0. So compared to the last ones we read, I don't think this is the worst of the Loverboy XXX saga. Kind of a mundane, but funny, kind of midpoint that we're reaching right before the finale, which I have to find, and hopefully no one else has found it yet, like this one. Either or, I'm gonna be in hiding until the next video, just in case that dragon's looking for me. This has been the Lore Cave, I'm the Lore Keeper, and I'll see you guys next time.